Okay, so you should have this paper. At the top of the paper, make sure you put your first and last name. It is hole punched, that way it will go into your binder pretty easily. We're going to do some examples together. So at the top it says approximating square roots between two integers. An integer is a positive or negative number, basically, okay? The following square roots are not perfect square roots. So perfect square roots would be like 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, because 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, 5 times 5 is 25. Anything between those numbers are imperfect square roots. They're not imperfect squares. They're not perfect squares. Meaning you could not, remember when we did the Cheez-Its and I gave you 6 Cheez-Its and I said make a square out of it? You can't make a square out of 6 Cheez-Its, so 6 is not a perfect square, okay? Determine the two integers which the given square root would be between. Then circle the whole number which the square root is closer to. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of examples. This is not going to be very difficult. Tomorrow we're going to add to it. We're going to get even more precise with our root, but today it's more of an estimation, an approximation. Estimation and approximation are synonyms. Okay, so example 1 says we want the square root of 27. So if I think of all of my perfect square numbers, my first perfect square number would be 1 times 1, which is 1, 2 times 2, which is 4, 3 times 3, which is 9, 4 times 4, which is 16, 5 times 5, which is 25, 6 times 6, which is 36, and I've already gotten past where 27 would be. So that means 27 is not a perfect square. If I had 27 Cheez-Its, I could not make a square out of 27. I could make a rectangle, but I could not make a square. So if I look at these perfect squares, where would 27 fit in this list of perfect squares? Like describe. It would be between blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. It would be close to blah, blah, blah. Grace?
Between 25 and 36.
So it'd be somewhere between here, because I know that 25 is lower than 27, 36 is higher than 27. So my lower perfect square, so I know that 27 is somewhere in here. My lower perfect square is 25. My higher perfect square is 36. Because it fits between here, so it's between 25 and 36. Does anyone have a question about where I got that information? Okay, so what is the square root of 25? If you need your yellow paper, that's fine. If you want to, what? 5. What is the square root of 36? 6. Okay. So I know that the square root of 27 is somewhere now between 5 and 6. Which one do you think it'd be closer to? What? 5. Why is it going to be closer to 5 and not 6?
Because if 5 times 5 is 25, 27 is only 2 away from 25, and it's
27 is only 2 away from 25, and it's 9 away from 36, right? So on a number line, it'd be a lot closer to 25. So that means that the square root of 27 is going to be closer to 5. There is so we have seen equal signs, but there's a special symbol to show like approximation or about or almost. That is I call it a squiggly equal sign. So that means ish. It's 5-ish. Okay? It's close to 5. Okay, it's not exactly 5. It's close to 5. Tomorrow we're going to get more exact. We'll have decimals or fractions to get really exact, but today we're just doing an approximation. So let's do example 2 together. We have the square root of 135. I'm going to tell you right now, 135 is not a perfect square, but we can do our number line, or you could use your yellow page to find it out quickly. So I know I'm going to, basically, this is going to sound silly, but I'm going to skip count by roots. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. 25. 36. 49. 64. 81. 100. 121. 144, and I can stop because I've gotten above 135. Okay? If you have had your yellow sheet, you might not have to write all those numbers. You could just look on your yellow sheet as a reference. Okay, so that means that 135, the square root of 135 is going to be between two numbers. Which two numbers do you see that it'll be between, Luke?
121 and 144.
So it's going to be somewhere over here. 121 and 144. 135 fits in there between those two numbers. So what is the square root of 121? 11. What is the square root of 144? 12. And it should always work like that. If you are suddenly jumping from 11 to 25, then you've made a mistake. They should be consecutive, meaning right next to each other. Okay, so now we need to figure out which is it going to be closer to. So, is the root of 135 closer to the root of 121, or is it closer to the root of 144? 144, I heard someone whisper it quietly. Okay, if I wasn't sure, I'd say, okay, 121 is 14 away from 135. 144 is 9 away from 144 or 135, so I know that 144 is closer. So the square root of 135 is approximately what? 12, because it's closer to this side. Okay? It's probably not super duper close. It's probably like maybe 11.7-ish if I had to make a random guess, but I am okay with you keeping it like this. So if you look, I didn't have the same question on this one, but I still need you to answer, okay? So you have, I'm providing you with this, like, I guess graphic organizer would be the best way to put it. So there's a lot, there's not it looks like a lot of practice problems, but honestly, it shouldn't take you too long. On the very back, there's an example of negative numbers. It says challenge, but you are required to do them. It's just, I am not going to it's okay if you miss them because I want you to try to do them with the negatives. Okay? What questions do you have before I let you loose to work? Yes? If you don't finish. If you do not finish, this is homework. Okay?